Yesterday we looked at the first part of DBCC check table, and today we're going to be looking at part 2. And we're going to look at some of the other parameters we can pass to this. So the first one, which I'm not a fan of at all, is the no info messages. I want to see what's going on and I want to see what it did, which is all error messages means it's going to output all the error messages. Now on the table level, let's hope that's not very large. Because of just how much data in general we can have in a table. But it's important to make sure that we know what the errors are. We don't want to be in a situation where we have no idea what went wrong. Table lock, in general, if you're in a situation where you have to check the integrity of a table, it's kind of like running CheckDB. If you have a lot of transactions going on, which you can, that can cause some disruptions. So if you're in that situation, I would always recommend doing it at a time where there's either very little access, or if it is so important and constant transactions are going on, that's an environment that I would recommend being set up or structured in an active environment. If it can never go offline, then we have to build it in that type of way. So I would recommend running this when there aren't a lot of transactions occurring on this. A lot of the times that I've had to run check table have been on lookup tables and have been on tables with incoming and outgoing data. So kind of go between tables, if you would. Estimate only, this is my I call this my SMH parameter. I'm shaking my head. The estimate only, and I think I have another video on this YouTube channel where there's something that's an estimate only, and it is so inaccurate. I don't know why they always provide that, but I can tell you in using estimate only, it's generally wrong. In fact, one of the funniest times I was doing estimate only on this table that wasn't even like 2 meg, and it was doing estimate only said it needed like 30 gig to run a check table, and it didn't need that much, but it was just like, what? Why would you need 30 gig for a 20 meg table? Maybe it really did. I don't know. But anyway, estimate only. Maybe it's accurate and your environment is good. Maybe it's accurate in your experience. But in my experience, it's generally not accurate. But it's an estimate, right? So then there's physical only. Physical only just looks. It's not logical, and that's a big key here. So this is not a logical check. It's only looking at the physical. So it's going to look at the page structure, the B tree structure, the headers. It's going to detect torn pages and failures that could result in data issues. But remember, it's not a logical check. So if you're in a situation where you really need to run DBCC check table, I would recommend doing everything. I would recommend not doing physical only. But there are situations in which you may only need to do the physical only. And then, of course, max DOP. This is useful for CPU-intensive environments where you do need to throttle the CPU. You can definitely specify a max stop. So that wraps up part 2. What we're going to be looking at more is moving into the bigger scaled integrity checks on the database level instead of just the table level. It is true that you might not need to run this quite as often, or when you do run check table, you may be running check table because of something which happened in CheckDB. Or if you're in a big environment, you may not be able to check the entire database at a time, and so there may be some tables that you look at. Or in the case of one of my clients, like we look at check table because of what's happened in the past. There are patterns. That does not mean, though, we do not look at CheckDB. It's just there's more frequent checks on certain tables.